Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today we have the second episode in Back on Track where we look at the recently adjusted ATGM vehicles. The first episode, or the last episode we had, was with the WZ-122. This one, we're looking at the RaketenJagdPanzer 2. And straight away, maybe this will help some of you, maybe it'll put some of your minds at ease, I don't know, but we'll see. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that this vehicle is the hardest vehicle to play in Cold War. I'm not going to say the game because who knows, there may be tougher vehicles to play in World War II. But right now, in my opinion, this is the hardest vehicle to play in Cold War. Why is that? Well, as we all know, the ATGM changes came in. The Raketen is at 100 meters, which I have said publicly several times. I don't agree with that. This thing needs to be at least 65 meters. But as of this recording, I think we're now 3-4 weeks into the changes. It hasn't changed yet, so I'm gonna say that if it stays at 100 meters, then the rest of what I'm going to say in this video still is applicable. If it changes, then what I say in this video is still applicable, but you can be slightly more aggressive because it's not 100 meters anymore, it's 65. So the Raketen, why is this, in my opinion, the hardest vehicle to play? Well, more than 99% of the vehicles in this game have main armaments. They've got main weapon systems, they've got guns, they've got 90mm, 105mm, 120mm, whatever it is. They have those weapon systems to fall back on. The Raketen does not have anything but ATGMs, and historically, you could shotgun with ATGMs. So even if you weren't that good with ATGMs, you could still wait round a corner, have someone drive round, you could shotgun them for 1200 damage, and even if you died, you still did 1200 damage in that game. So you could still, you know, with enough patience, with enough time, you could still grind out this vehicle in that manner. Now, technically, you can still do that, but you risk the most damage you'll do is 300, 400 per shot, or you'll just bounce altogether, because I believe someone said, and I think this is correct, ATGMs act as heat rounds, so if you hit spaced armor, nothing. You're not going to do anything. So, you're limited to 100 meters, and you've got no main armament. Those two things combined are what make this tank, in my opinion, the hardest tank to play in Cold War. So, if hearing me say that makes you feel better, then I'm glad. But we're not going to leave it there. What we're going to do now is we're going to dive into this vehicle, and we're going to try and, well, I'm going to talk to you about what I do to make this vehicle work. Now, obviously, with the caveat, this is a very difficult vehicle to play, so don't watch this game and think, oh, I'm going to have a game like that every single time. No, I don't have games like this every single time. This is a rarity. The enemy team play helped. The map helped. My team's play helped. So there were factors in this game that were unique to this game that meant I could pull off this result. So the first thing we need to do is we need to work out what this thing can't do. So 100 meters is the limit on the ATGMs. So straight away, you can't play with an... You can, but you really shouldn't be playing this thing within 100 meters. You just shouldn't. So we'll say we're going to say you can't. I'm going to say you can't play this thing within 100 meters because just for this video, do not play this thing within 100 meters. Do not get close to the enemy in this thing, ever, absolutely ever. Never get close. And if you are close, do what I'm doing right now, which is hide. Even though it's an M113, even though that thing is notorious for being absolutely terrible, it's not as terrible anymore. That thing can now it can outplay you at close range. You cannot get close to the enemy, and if you are close, sit still, because that's when your detection reticle will shrink the most, and you're more likely to stay alive. So You can't get close. That's what you can't do. What can you do? Well, you can hide. And with the equipment I've got on this thing, I've got the camo net engine and tracks, so I've boosted the speed and I've boosted the mobility. I've boosted the speed, mobility, and concealment as much as I possibly can, because you need to be able to shoot and relocate very, very quickly. That is the play style. Play long to medium range and move and use your concealment to your advantage. At the start of the game, I pushed up to the H line, or G line, I would say, and I let some team push further east than I was. I shot the side of a Marder, shot the side of an M60, got a shot into the front of an Ignis, all from roughly the same position, the covered position that I had. So, generally speaking, that's the play style for this tank. You want to play it conservatively, you want to play it relatively passively, but sometimes you need to push a little bit further, and that is exactly the situation I'm in now. It's 1 versus 4. The RaketenJagdPanzer's coming straight at me, can't avoid that one. ATGM out before he gets within 100 meters, kill him. Now it's me versus the M113 and 2 FV4211s. Prior to this game, I had 3 marked the Raketen. If I remember correctly, I 3 marked it. I was kind of going for it, and I was a bit stressed out about it, and I got the game and I 3 marked it. I was like, oh phew, I've done that. And then the very next game I lost it. I thought, well, I'm not going to get the 3 mark back, because this tank for me it's tough to play this thing. But fortunately this game came along, and this game I 3 marked it. So I'm pleased with myself for this result. But this game does demonstrate the strengths of this vehicle. So it's mobile, it's got good moving concealment, and it's got fantastic still concealment. So you want to use that. You want to use those things to your advantage. If you want to spot and stay undetected, you can move around, but if you stay still, the reticle will shrink to I believe it's a proxy spot for this thing. So that is only 35 meters. And right now, I am having to play. Remember, at range. Got to play at range. I guess there was a time when you could technically have I could have been more aggressive there. I wouldn't have been, because it's a 4-11 and I'm likely to bounce anyway. But any other tank, I could have been more aggressive previously. But with these changes to the game, I have got to be more passive. I've got to be a lot more careful about my tank positioning. So it's me, left alive, against 2 4-11s. We all know ATGMs don't do very well against spaced armor. The 4-11 is basically spaced armor, apart from the driver's hatch and the rear. So this is where the maneuverability, concealment, and map knowledge come in. The Raketen, it can be a very, very good tank in the right circumstance, and this is the right circumstance for it. I've pushed to a position of elevation here. Sit still and wait. I'm essentially waiting for the 4-11s to make the mistakes. I'm waiting for them to expose themselves, to put themselves into vulnerable positions so that I can take advantage of them. This is what I love about the game right now. It's not just about rushing around at insane speeds. Right here, this is player versus player. This is down to raw skill now. This is, am I a better player than them? Is my knowledge of the game better than theirs? If the answer is yes, I'll win. If the answer is no, I'll lose. And that provides me with the sense of, this is where I learn. This is where I can get better. Now, I do manage to pull off the win in this game, so fortunately for me, I was able to outsmart the enemy team. But my hope is that the 2 guys left on the enemy team came away from this battle having learned something. Because this is an incredibly good game, and this, like I've said, this is This is the essence of the game for me right here. This is the crux of it. This is the core of it. This is where the excitement is. This is where the interest is, because it's raw player versus player, brain against brain, and I absolutely love it. So I'm essentially, at this point, I'm just driving around the high points in the map, trying to locate well, I'm trying to locate them, and basically I assume they'll be coming to my cap because they know I'm fairly sneaky. There is a 4-11 behind me, or there was. Yes, there we go. There he is. Again, there's the weak spot provided for me. So it was 4 versus 1. It's now 1 versus 1. And it was 2 4-11s. Two tough tanks. So the game, you know, it wasn't handed to me. It definitely wasn't handed to me, but it was hard. This was tense. I got to tell you. I mean, talking about it now, it's almost like, oh yeah, you know, I did this, I did that, and I thought about this, and it wasn't a guaranteed win. Absolutely not. Any other tank, apart from the T-72 AV, possibly other T-72s, maybe the Ural, possibly. Any other tank in the game, I'd have been a lot more confident. Any other 2 tanks in the game would have been a lot more confident. But the fact that it was 2 4-11s meant this is no walk in the park. This is not easy. And 100-meter limit. I can't get close. I've got no choice but to get. I can't. I've got to play this sensibly. And here we go. That's when I spot where the 4-11 is, and I immediately drive into the building. And he took a shot at me, and I did minimal damage. So I can only assume he's firing high explosive. I could be wrong about that, but he's tucked himself into the corner, which is fairly sensible. He's got his strong armor pointed towards me. I'm trying to spot where he is in the corner, and I make the guess that he's there somewhere, but that shot does absolutely nothing. That doesn't hit anything, and he's pulled out of cover, so he knows where I am. And he's also got some... I can only assume he took the opportunity to come at me while I was reloading to try and close the distance, because he is safest. The 4-11 will be safest close to me, but the 4-11 isn't the fastest vehicle in the game. And the reason I used engine and tracks is because I want to boost the mobility, and I'm using that boosted mobility right now. So he knows he's spotted again. He disappears around the other side of the building, and he stops. And the only way he can be spotted and targeted, and he's correct about that, is for me to have come all the way around. So he spins around again. I'm running away, making sure to keep the barn and the house in between myself and him. He turns. Put the shot out. Bounce. Again, you know, it's not easy. This tank, it's tough. I'll be honest with you guys, it's tough. But the fact that this vehicle is so tough to play is what can make it so rewarding. And I like that. I like a challenge. I don't like things to be easy. I don't want things handed to me. I don't want things made easier because you know, that's what the masses want or whatever. No, we need something to grind against. We need something to challenge us. We need something to work against. And the Raketen, while it is an absolute pain sometimes, it is an absolute ball ache to play. And I can totally understand if a new player or someone who's not okay with ATGMs, if this vehicle just annoys you to high heaven and you struggle with it and you can't seem to progress, I get it. But there we go. There's the kill. That was the best game I think I've ever played in the Raketen. Over 10,000 damage, 11,869 damage. That was a 1 versus 4 that I won there. I got 2 messages after this, or maybe 2 or 3 messages after this game from several people saying, that was amazing to watch, GG. Oh, absolutely fantastic game. In a very, very difficult tank to play. So, there's the 3 mark, there's the mastery. Or 3 mark again, I should say. So the Raketen, it's got to be played at range, and it's got to be played sneaky. concealed, but you can use its mobility to relocate quickly, and I use the engine and tracks and the camo net to achieve that. So there you go, guys. That is all I've got to say about the Raketen. It's a tough tank, but it can be an incredibly rewarding tank to play. So if you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, if not a dislike, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.